My name's Jessica Goldfinch, and I am an artist, and I also am an arts educator. So I've been here my whole life, so I am a native New Orleanian. As a child, I was exposed to a lot of different things than most people. People were investigating all sorts of different things, religion, music, art, kind of just different way of living. And I also went to an experimental school, so my exposure to what was a normal life or straight life was not much growing up. And growing up as I did, we grew up a total atheist, and actually my father would read, he had a children's Bible, and he would read the stories just as he would read Grimm's fairy tales or anything like that. They were just tales, and morality tales, just like Grimm's fairy tales are. I can remember going to my mother one time and asking her to read it, and her getting like, "Oh, I'm not reading that," and I just was extremely perplexed because to me it was just a story, and still is just a story. But my work, I just became really fascinated with how people believed in those stories and how those stories shape the world. And also, I think, to be an educated person, you have to know about other religions. And so it was part of an education, too, for me. And, really from this outsider perspective and trying to see, what things had in common and the differences, I guess. In my program, I joke that I teach a lot more than art, but I really do. I'm the first adult who will talk to them about these kind of ideas that they're having in their artwork, and I believe, my work is very conceptual. It's very object-oriented too, but there's a lot of conceptual background to it, and we talk a lot about those kind of ideas and bigger ideas in there. And even if it's, an anime, a lot of kids start with anime, and a lot of my friends started with drawing Batman, so I just, find it a gateway drawing into other things. And so, we talk about, with anime, Japanese printmaking, for example, is a really, and go into the historical content of where these images came from. And this is Japan, and isn't it an interesting place? Would you ever want to go there? Just to kind of get them out of, like I said, the little neighborhood they grew up with. And I'll ask my students, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I get things like, I think it'd be fun to put stuff on the shelf in Walmart. And I'm like, really? Because you don't think that'd get boring? And then they think about it, well, maybe it would. And what else is out there? What could you do? And you get them to dream further. And even if they, don't end up being the astronaut, they might end up working in a field like that if that's their dream. And I think it's really important to plant those seeds at a young age. And we had spoken about the piece with the multiple arms. I became interested in how to depict religious iconography in a more human way. And what would a goddess look like? What would the bone structure be underneath? And that came out of these medical illustrations and altering them, and trying to get the anatomy right and how the shoulder blades would work. And if you had your normal shoulder blades, the arms would hang down near your butt, and it just didn't look right, and became kind of weirdly insect-looking, So they had to, if you were going to have multiple arms, you'd have to have shorter blades. They're not really a shoulder anymore, but, where your arm attaches. And if you didn't have the blade, then the arm just wouldn't move from here. It would just move, you had to have that socket into a shoulder blade, but they had to be shorter so they didn't hang. And it just became this whole kind of investigation of, a re-investigation of how anatomy works and how it would all fit together. But it's just real important that it could be a reality to me and not just a religious idea.